Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. Sandi Somers, a prolific international and local filmmaker, along with a bunch of other things. You've been a mentor to me for the last little while, and it's been fascinating to get to start to know you. And so I'd love this opportunity to ask you a few more questions and dig into some things that we can share with other people. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm intrigued.
You're intrigued.
I'm
I'm
intrigued.
intrigued.
Yeah.
Well, a question that I've started the other folks with is, what was the world you grew up in? I know, it's a big question, right?
It's a really big question.
And you can take it how you want.
The world I grew up in. I grew up in Cape Breton Island,
Yeah.
so a small place. One of the things that I think was awesome about it is I grew up in theater.
Yeah.
So that I think had like a huge impact on my life because I was able to do that. Yeah. So there are other things that, filmmaking was absolutely not a thing that I ever thought was a possibility.
No.
Because nobody was really making films in the area that I grew up in. And if they were, it was outside of my reach or realm. So it wasn't until I came to Calgary that I started working with super interesting people who eventually invited me to do some film work that got me interested in film. That, now I can put one foot into many different creative realms because of that. But yeah, it's funny, you're asking about one of the things that I remember, someone came to our local gym and played Sunrise Sunset. It was a woman with a cello. It blew me away.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like that before.
At the gym? Sorry, I'm confused. Yes, at the gym?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That would blow my mind.
It kind of blew my mind, So then I wanted to be a conductor, but yeah.
And why not?
I really sucked at fiddle.
Oh.
I was not very good at it.
Oh, okay. I love fiddle. So.
I love it too.
But not for you.
No, it didn't really work out. So music, although was another aspect of my life, it wasn't as big as more of the, filmmaking and theater side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've made, I think, over 80 films?
I've made or worked on probably around 80.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of folks, you started with a lot of shorts, right?
Oh yeah, most of them are shorts.
Yeah. And so how did you get started in doing shorts or in making shorts? Like, you've written and you've directed. How did you delve into that?
Well, I was never a very good conversationalist. So a lot of my initial films had no dialogue in them.
Really?
No, actually most of them had no dialogue.
Wow.
So they told story, which is actually, I think, a really great way to to move into film, is because you're dependent on telling a story visually.
Yeah.
And although that was because I felt like I couldn't write, that's why you did it. And then, like any artist, so then after that, then I went into dance film. So I did like a whole bunch of work in dance film with a great choreographer. And then as an artist, then I felt that was done, moved on to others. And I love the short format film. Like, I really love it. There's an art form to getting a whole story out in under 6 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And I love doing it. So I've done so many because I love doing it. And then eventually what happened was when I had ideas, I wanted to find someone to write them, but they weren't writing it in the voice that I wanted it written in. So one day I just went, I'm just going to write it. It was a piece called The Artistic Taxidermist.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wrote it and it did really well. And I thought, maybe I can move into writing. And then my last feature, Haley Rose, I wrote and directed it.
Yeah. And so I do have to hop back to The Artistic Taxidermist because you went to Cannes with that, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just slide over this fairly big thing. But how was that experience?
Cannes was great. It was such a good film festival.
Yeah.
It was so fun. It really was. Yeah. I'd go back to Cannes any day. Any day.
Any day.
Any day.
Okay, and then yes, so a feature film that you've written and that you directed. Where did the idea for Haley Rose come?
Haley Rose is actually something that I had started before Ice Blue, my other feature.
Okay.
But it required much more. It required more work, bigger budget, stuff like that. So, but it was great because when Ice Blue was finished, then I could start working on that. It came from growing up in Nova Scotia and then coming out here, and in some ways over the years being westernized. Because you know when you grow up somewhere, there and growing up in a small place on an island like Cape Breton Island, people are super unique, but you don't know that because you grew up with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you move out west, which is culturally the most opposite that you can get. And so every time I would go home, and just see how beautiful it is there. Oh, how hardy the people are, and how open they are to just speak about anything, and how they wear their emotions just on their sleeves, and out, in other places it's just a little quieter, in some ways. So that's where it kind of stemmed from that. Kind of stemmed from the cultural differences and my noticing and remembrance of both.
Well, and as I was watching the film, I noticed just differences in how people spoke, but it was also gorgeous. Like I've never been to Nova Scotia, and so seeing some of those shots was gorgeous. I'm like, I need to go out there.
Yeah, for me, a part of the story was the character of the landscape, because it is so beautiful yet so rugged.
Yeah.
And the ocean scenes, like there's just such a strength to it. And the fog, and you have these like pops of color and character and charisma that just come alive. So that was from the beginning always a part of the photography of it, and even in a meta kind of way, the heart of it, how people just shine, above and beyond the circumstance that they're in.
Yeah. And so, how long were you working on Haley Rose? Like, what's sort of the trajectory or the...
I was in Nova Scotia for 3 months.
Right.
And we had gotten funding just when COVID hit. So we just sat on. So I'm going to ignore those years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just gone.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I did have the first script. And then after so I would say 5 years.
Okay. From sort of starting to full production?
Yeah, I would say 5 years.
Incredible.
Yeah, writing and yeah.
Yeah, which I've heard you say, like, if you're going to write something and produce it, you got to love it, right? Like, because you're going to spend so much time with it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder in terms of, like in Haley Rose, there's the main character is queer, right? And it's a beautiful thing of seeing a positive relationship with queer younger folks. And yeah, the community is a little, I don't know what word to say, like that's a little new for them a little bit, including having like a non-binary partner. What's at the heart of that for you?
Well, in so many ways, there were definitely, it's super fictionalized, for sure. But you could probably see there's resemblances just in terms of, I grew up in Nova Scotia. I came here, I go back there. In the film, everyone found out about Haley being queer from the newspaper.
Yeah, is that a real thing?
Well, it's not a real thing, but you know the story about meeting someone at a headbanger bar in Banff, and someone trying to pick Haley up and
Yeah.
Okay, that's a true story. And so when that went all the way back to my hometown, and everyone from all my friends that I had lost contact with, man, they found me. They found me, and they're like, really? Is that true? And they were laughing like no one cared.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no one at all cared. Which is why in the film, although it's a new thing for the family, truly you can see that no one cares.
Yeah, it's a like, oh, I found out something new about you.
Yeah.
And okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's other stuff going on.
there's other stuff going on.
Yeah, quite a bit of other stuff.
Queerness ain't one of them right
Yeah,
now.
that's not a problem.
No.
No. And I guess my question is, so this is now in terms of like the piece that you get to create and you get to write, and the response, I imagine, is quite different than the work that perhaps you were doing in the 90s.
Yeah, it's completely different. You know, the amount of people who relate to the storyline of the relationships that are dysfunctional in a family. And even some people had a different perspective of how to look at that relationship that is in repair. And none of them had, nothing had anything to do with any queerness or anything.
Yeah. Well, and it is that beautiful thing of moving towards stories having queer representation, but it not being the crux of the conflict. It being like, there's lots of other things that queer folks, you know, they exist in all types of people and all types of circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thinking back to your earlier work and a different time.
Yeah.
And the responses from the audience. It was a very different time.
Yeah.
Right? Talking about censorship and talking about how people, like, I feel like I read somewhere that there was even a time when someone wore like a bag to come see one of your films.
It was really challenging to do any work with any representation of lesbian or queer in there. And, you know, and I did do work that was, my belief has always been, we should all have the same rights.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that how that becomes political to ask for equality or just the same rights. And so I've always lived my life just like every other person lives their life. And in that simplicity of living your life fully as a human who has as many rights as everyone else caused a lot of issues and conflict for other people who didn't see it that way. And so when I look at my work, my first queer piece, my next queer piece to this queer piece, I see my trajectory of going from underground to above ground, but living in the story of, you know, where if there is a, you know, queer person or lesbian in a film, they typically were once straight or they die.
Right.
Right? Like, so that whole theme. And then all the way to Haley Rose, which exhibits none of those.
Yeah.
So talking about how atmosphere, politics influence artists, whether we know it, whether I recognized it or not, and to a degree I did, of course. But yeah, it just moves with the way the world is. So yeah, I had no people really are enjoying Haley Rose, and they enjoyed Phantasmagoria and Jean de Folk in a very different way. But I'm not worried for my life the way I used to be.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, what an interesting spot to be creating art in, and where you are actually, you know, the importance of the stories that you're bringing forth, but also that there is a very concrete risk.
There was a concrete risk in everything that I did, yeah.
Yeah. But how did that inform you as an artist as a whole, like creating in that intensity?
I found it was super helpful.
Yeah.
And in a part, it was when you create work and your art is condemned and you are personally criticized and condemned, I guess it can make two things happen. You can either just walk away or you can really assess that relationship. So I can look at my art, even Haley Rose, all of them, and go, not everybody's going to like it. Not everyone's going to love it. It's art subjective. But what I did learn is that if I put 100% of my heart into something, no one can take that away. Ever. And I learned that because of that project, because when you are personally attacked, you really got to work through that because, you know, you have a world that's telling you you shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a heart going like, I don't know, I think I have as much a right as you, so I'm just going to stand here.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a thick skin. It really did. It allowed me to see that I accept that not everybody's going to like my work.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can accept is that you can't take my art and my process away from me. It's mine.
Well, and hearing you talk about that, I imagine that led into the founding of Herland, because it's not necessarily queer specific or anything like that, but in the film industry also, being a woman or not a man essentially is in a higher positions is still fairly uncommon, you know? And so yeah, where did Herland come from?
Herland as a festival was created before I came in with the Herland mentorship program.
Okay.
And Herland was started by the Status of Women and CSWAC and the Of Color Collective. So they started a festival as a fundraiser. And then that went on for a while. And then there was a movement one of the years when governments changed federally, and a lot of women's organizations went away. They came to me, Herland came to me and asked if I would be interested in starting some kind of a workshop. And so then that became the Herland mentorship program. And definitely, you know, the more that we see women doing things, you know, the more out there, the more we can encourage others to do that. And, you know, it wasn't even all that long ago when we held a workshop and a woman came up to me and actually said these words, I didn't know a woman can be a director. I'm not talking decades ago.
No.
I'm talking not long ago. Like I said, I'm removing the years for the pandemic.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was just a few years ago. But that's to this day that still you know is it's challenging to be a woman in the film industry. Yes, it's getting easier. Yes, there's more opportunities, you know. But if you look at it in even a deeper way, more you know, you can look at how many big budgets are going to women, how many low budgets, how many women are asking to give their salary away. I mean, like there's a big difference in there. And yeah, you know, it's one, I find that for me, I just wanted to direct. So I put one foot in front of the other when those obstacles came or when those situations came. It was like, okay, I'm just going to put another foot in front and I'm just going to get closer, which is why I've done so much work, is because I generated it for myself. I learned everything on my own and just kept working that way.
What would you say for a person who is coming into this industry? What are some advice or some tips? You know, if you have to do it on your own, but also if you're with other folks, like how do you start, or what is important to know?
And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I kept the Herland mentorship program going, because we need community. We need support. We need someone to help us get through Hump Wednesday, you know, when we're not getting grants or when projects aren't coming through and we just have dry periods. We still want to have motivation and we still want to have people that we can rely on. And I think that's one of the great things to do is create community. And I think the other thing is to, you know, as an artist, I follow my heart and I follow my muse. And that's what remains strong with me. It's not influences or expectations or external goals, because I feel that once we lose our connection to our art and we become more like, I need to accomplish, I need to strive, I need to do this, then it's super stressful.
Yeah.
Because everyone is trying to accomplish the same thing. But if we stay connected to what led us to being an artist, then the rest of it will fall into place. But not to lose this connection with the heart. Once that's gone, then it becomes a job. Having said that, if you want to have a job in film and you don't have that heart connection, then go for it. But to understand that they're different things. They can run together simultaneously, but to not lose the heart and soul of your art and your artistry and your practice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all of these answers and sharing more about your career and also your approach. I think it is really beautiful to think about sticking back to that heart. It does sound like that's what sustained the longevity of your career. Like that is what is actually at the heart of it.
That is what is at the heart of it. But it is what's at the heart of it because there are so many challenges, especially, you know, even today. It's a challenge for anybody to make a living at filmmaking, let alone coming from the background that I have, and you know, being queer, being female is also very challenging. So sticking to the heart because that's really all that matters to me.
Yeah. Well, and I can't take that away from you.
Can't take that away from
No. Thank you so much, Sandi.
Thanks for your questions. It was great.
Thank you.
Ximena Ríos, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
That's good.
How are you, by the way?
I too am good. So I wanted to ask you about what got you into film and what informed you as a child that brought you here.
Thank you for asking that question, actually, because I do hold it very dear, like the reason why I decided to, you know, choose film as a career path, because when I was little, in my family, it was kind of like a family tradition to go every Sunday to a movie theater. And it's just like, we would watch just whatever was available. Every time we just had like such an amazing time. And my mom at the time was just like working pretty much like 2 jobs. So she was a very busy woman. Every time we went to the movie theater, it was just like spending time as family. And at the beginning, I didn't really consider it as a career path. It was just a family tradition, right? When I actually started to think of film as a career, it was actually in a movie. They had some behind the scenes at the end of the movie, and it looked like such an amazing time. So I really enjoyed watching that, and something in me kind of like clicked, you know? So I think after that, I kind of like really saw film as something else, besides being something I really enjoyed watching, into like something I can now create and also share with other people, and maybe, I don't know, make them feel what I felt when I was in a movie theater with my family.
You grew up in Acapulco.
Yes.
And so how do you feel the transition from Acapulco to coming to Calgary informed your career?
Back home, there wasn't like a big film culture. So moving here, it was just like great to see. I mean, like places like the Globe Cinema or like the Plaza, and they just like have either local screenings or just like things like that that I think I was missing back home, and just like coming here and just seeing that, and even just the art scene overall, it was great.
Do you know what I appreciate most about you? Why I'm so happy that you're still on the path that you're on is when you did your film Faded. You were so cool, calm, and collected. And when I showed up on set, just to see how things were going, it was going so well. And I so respected you in how you held yourself in the set. And it was after that that I learned that there was a big problem that you had the night before. Do you want to talk about that?
I had a location locked in for the one scene we were filming, which was the art scene in Faded. But the night before, or even just the afternoon before the day of the shoot, I got an email from the people or from the location we were using, letting me know that I cannot use the location anymore. So obviously I just didn't know what to do. I was like, okay, but I don't really have a backup plan. So I was just really stressing, and because my DP, she knew the people that kind of like had the location, she kind of like was helping me just to find a backup plan. So while she was also looking, I was looking, and then I was just kind of like preparing for the worst. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to be receiving a lot of people in my very small basement suite. And I guess we're gonna be filming here. I don't know, I was just kind of like preparing for the worst. And Chelsea Young Smith, shout out to her. She was amazing, my DP. She called me and she was like, hey, I found you a location. And here is the address. And we are 100% allowed to film there. So that was like around 10 p.m. at night. So it was just like very late. So I was like, once I have a solution, I'm just gonna send an email and just address everything. So yeah, that's what I did. So at the end of the night, just send an email for everyone. Hey, so the location, the previous location is now, it's not gonna work anymore. So here's the address. Please go there. Please go to this address. And if you need like transportation, just let us know. And we're just gonna arrange everything. But yeah, it was very stressful. Just thinking back, it was just, a nightmare. But yeah, it worked out.
It was a nightmare, but the way you held yourself on set so that you kept everyone nice and calm and feeling really supported through it. I thought you did a really great job doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's crazy to think about it because I thought I was very stressed. Like, it was kind of like my first time going solo directing a personal project. So that experience was very scary. So I was stressed in like so many different ways. And even just because we do have a behind the scenes of Faded. So even just kind of like watching that video again, I'm like, oh man, I look so stressed there. Like, I remember kind of like all the things that I was thinking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just smile, you know?
What do you feel keeps you motivated to continue to do work in film?
It's the only thing that actually brings me joy when working, you know, when I'm on set. I really do enjoy the process. I think it's awesome just seeing everything that I had in mind. Now I'm actually like seeing it on camera. And all these ideas, they kind of like seem to be very kind of like personal stories. So I'm kind of like seeing film also as a diary, which motivates me too, just to tell my story in a way.
That's beautiful. That's great. I love that you refer to it as a diary because it's so true how our films often reflect where we are in our lives. Amazing. If there was some advice that you could give to new emerging filmmakers, what advice would you give them?
I guess just keep going, because sometimes it may not seem like it's working out for you, whether it is a location fell through. Just keep going. Like, you're gonna get those opportunities. You just gotta be stubborn in a way. You have to stick to it, but create your own opportunities. Like nowadays, everyone has a camera in their phones. So just play around with what you have, play around with friends. Just like very simple stuff that you can do that are very tangible and easy for you to reach. Just start with that. And then eventually that's just going to lead you and it's going to take you to where you want to be.
That's great. That's great advice. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was great having a conversation with you.
Yeah.